Hello, everybody. This is the Communications Masterclass. Actually, this is a repeat of the Communications Masterclass because I forgot to record it. So you have just me right now. It won't take a whole hour because it's only me. We won't have conversation. But I did want to share with you because this topic today is hugely important, and that is missing social cues. Social cues are the nonverbal positive and negative reactions that people have to conversations. Now, social cues fall into three categories. Vocal, that's where the tone of voice um, is really not congruent with what you're saying. A classic example of this is when people ask you how you are and you say fine. There are a lot of ways you can say fine, and the tone of voice that you use to say them can make a big difference. So, if I say, fine, how are you? Or if I say, fine, big difference. Or raised eyebrows, fine, three different meanings with the different tones. That's how you can read a room. And that's what this is all about. Reading the person with whom you are communicating. And the reading the room falls not only to the speaker, but also to the listener. If the listener is not being congruent with, or if the speaker is not being congruent with their tone of voice with what they're discussing, or um, they seem distracted in the conversation that they're having, it can make a big difference. And that is why you want to see what read the room, if you will. So I told you, tone is the first one. The second one is the face. Raised eyebrows, eye contact, smirks on the face, little smiles, big smiles. They can tell you a lot about whether a person is engaged in what you're talking about. Eye contact is a big one. And that is when you'll notice, and it's normal to look away when people are talking. Perfectly normal. However, if you find that the person keeps looking at their phone while you're talking to them, they're checking their text messages as they come through. That's telling you they're not interested, or they disagree with what they're saying and they want to move on. So, being aware of your eye contact is huge. Also, those little smiles and smirks, we can't control those. And that's the thing about social cues. When those non-verbals that we need to be observing, those are unconscious. So the person is not aware that they're being rude and looking at their phone. They're not aware that they've got this little smirk on their face because they think what you're saying is garbage. That is why they're so good at helping you understand exactly where that person is. The third nonverbal is the body. You can tell if someone's paying attention to you or what they think, if they're aggravated by what you say with their hands. Are they fidgeting? Are they fidgeting in what they're doing? Are they looking at their phone? They may be trying to sneak it up, to sneak a quick look like you don't see what they're doing, but they're paying attention to their phone and not you. And another one, it's going to sound really strange, but their feet. Watch a person's feet. If those feet are facing towards you, they're all in. They're paying attention to you. If they're turned sideways, like they're ready to walk away, they're not with you. So, what do you do when somebody is giving you social cues and you're not sure what to think about it? Either they're positive social cues, they're very excited, or they appear to maybe be agitated or they disagree with what you're saying. How do you observe that and what do you do with it? The way that you observe it is scanning the room, scanning the person, being observant. The only way you're going to catch those social cues is by looking at them. And the good news is that if you're not great at social cues observation is teachable. You can tell yourself, you can realize to yourself that you don't always get them. And if you don't get them, then you need to be speaking 20% less and observe 20% more, because those social cues are so critical. The other thing you can do when you see the social cues and you need to either diffuse a situation or get someone's agreement or just understand what's going on is asking questions. Asking questions like, so what do you think about that? Do you have any opinions on that? What are your thoughts? Questions like that as a speaker can make a huge difference. And if the speaker is not congruent in their voice or their actions with their words, as a listener, you have a responsibility to ask questions too. Social cues can be difficult for some people, more so than others. People with high IQs can sometimes be really oblivious to social cues because they're so deep in their analysis of the conversation. Also, social cues tie into the emotional quotient, not the IQ, but the EQ. Because emotional, I'm sorry, because social cues are emotional recreations. If I'm not excited, I'm not going to have a big smile. If I'm not bored, I'm not going to be moving my feet away from you and leaning back from you and looking at my phone. So, all of those things are emotions. And that's what social cues show you. Emotionally, where is the speaker or the listener where you are at that moment? Another group of people who can suffer with social cues are English as second language speakers. They're too busy translating to really focus on what is going on around them sometimes. So that can be a challenge. And the third is culture differentiation. The different cultures experience different things. For example, looking someone in the eye in some cultures is not as accepted as it is in other cultures. Disagreeing vehemently is not accepted in some cultures as it is in others. Therefore, people will react physically as opposed to saying something to you. So you need to be aware of cultural differences. You need to be aware of what's happening emotionally to the person with whom you're speaking, or so that they know and you know how everybody's feeling. You don't want to continue a conversation with somebody who's not into where you are, that has tuned you out, or who disagrees with you so much that they aren't even listening anymore. You need to have a dialogue, not a monologue. Monologue is what's going to happen if they have tuned out, and that's not something anyone wants to listen to. Dialogues are important, and dialogues happen when you observe the social cues and you know how to react and what actions to take. So, what actions do you take? Well, first of all, you pause before responding and you observe the situation. The second thing you do is scan the person while you're talking to them. Observe what's going on around you and what's going on around them. Final thing to do, I told you about watching the feet. The third thing or fourth thing you want to do is watch for the energy shifts. Energy shifts aren't always easy to see, they're better felt. So if you can feel that suddenly the energy is exuberant, then you know that the conversation you're having is a happy one. If, however, you start feeling tension, even if you don't see it on someone's face or in their body, You need to trust that energy shift and know that you need to shift too. And finally, ask clarifying questions. It's okay to ask, what do you think about that? It's even okay to say, I think I lost you here. You seem distracted. Should we have this conversation another time? Ask questions. It makes a huge difference. Other places that you need to be aware of social cues where it can be most critical is in a business meeting. You need to be aware of how people are responding to you and how you are responding to other people. In culture differential systems, times when you have people of multicultures in the same room, you need to really watch those cues because there are cultural differences that may be impacting things that you don't even realize. The third place where it's significant is on a text or other written digital communication. There's no tone, there's no smile, there's no raised eyebrows. So someone can misunderstand what you have typed. Now, that misunderstanding is on them because they're assuming what you meant. When you type something, they're just words. Don't have any nonverbals to communicate with that. So the listener or the reader is the one who's going to take a look at it. And if you read something and you are assuming the worst, pick up the phone and talk to the person and find out, are they really mad? Are they really happy about something bad that's happened? You want to hear it in their voice. And that ties into the energy shifts because you'll know then what happens after that. Other places are that we are now an online community. We have multiple Zoom meetings every single day. It's difficult when you're on a Zoom meeting to really scan the room and sense the cues, but you need to make every effort to do that. First of all, if you're the speaker, it's difficult to see those little pictures of people and look at their facial expressions because they're so small. But make an attempt. Make sure that everybody is with you when you're communicating. And if you're a listener and your camera's on, know that we can see you. Therefore, if you're only half listening and you're checking your text messages and your email, if you are scanning other sites while you're on Zoom, we can see you. So be aware that you need to be giving people your undivided attention. It's distracting to other people and it's rude. Finally, if you speak from the stage, that is a classic place where most people automatically scan for social cues. You're scanning the people that you can see to make sure that they are engaged. Make sure that they're not checking their phone, that they're following you. Social cues are critical. They are the non-verbal positive and negative signals for how your conversation is going. The only way that you're going to see those cues is to observe, to scan. If you don't think that you have a problem with social cues, you're probably wrong. And over the next day or two, be really observant and see if you notice more social cues than usual. And if you know that you have a problem, awareness is the first step. That's wonderful. If you don't have a high EQ, if you have a high IQ, you may need to really work at it. And if necessary, find a mentor who can work with you on that because it is huge. And if you're missing social cues, you're missing half of the conversation. Speak 20% less, observe 20% more. That will help you make sure that you are observing all of the social cues. Thanks for watching the replay.